Hi everybody, Matt Bull, MD of Action Coach in Loughborough, here with another episode of the Business Spotlight, and I'm delighted today to be joined by Mahmoud Reza from I Hate Numbers. How are you today, Mahmoud?
Fine, I'm absolutely fine, Matt, and thanks very much for inviting me to share some minutes with you today.
Absolute pleasure. Great to have you here. Great to hear. Before we get started, let's just tell the viewers a little bit about who you are and what you do, please.
Yeah, fine. I'll give you like a Japanese synopsis of who I am. So I'm one of 9 children, probably the middle one and probably the cutest. So in terms of I migrated to Leicester from London about 40 plus years ago, did my first degree. My first paid proper job, having done a few entrepreneurial things in my sort of former youth, was in teaching. Left that after 3 years on the grounds that in the UK, if you teach, people think you're no good for anything else. Had no job to go to, so that was probably an element of a risk appetite. Went into industry, worked for a very well-known brewery in Leicester, did that for 5.5 years, qualified as an accountant, got other qualifications, thought, I love accountancy, but that's not really what I want to do all the time. So I jumped ship once again, started from my back bedroom 28 plus years ago, and I've managed to move out my back bedroom now, and I've actually developed from that 2 businesses as a staff team, and now I'm probably still learning, and just now in my business located city of Leicester with clients domestically as well as overseas as well.
Amazing. What a story. What a story. Plenty for us to go at in this interview then. So I suppose with the current business that you've got, the I Hate Numbers business, just tell the viewers a little bit about, I suppose, what that business does, but also why that business, what was it that led you to starting that business?
Well, that's a great question there, Matt. I mean, for me, it was a combination of things. And I tell all my clients, if you're going to do something, try and stick to something you know to begin with, so you minimize the risk. So coming from the world of education, coming from the world of industry, what I found is that most people, when it comes to finance, when it comes to numbers, their eyes will glaze over. They'll probably grab the nearest pencil and try and stab themselves with it. So I do the traditional, what you might call compliance stuff. So clients who come to us, whether they're acorn-sized businesses doing only a few thousand a year, some multi-million, they'll come to us. We do their normal compliance stuff, year-end accounts, returns. But for me, what we've moved to for the last 10, 15 years is more about managing that business on an ongoing basis and getting clients to get more comfortable, not to be accountants, but to get more comfortable with their numbers so they can make proper decisions, reduce their stress and anxiety. So accounting services, biz tax is pretty much what I focus on in the I Hate Numbers business.
Excellent. And what, from your perspective and your experience, the businesses that come to you when they don't have that financial knowledge, or they're probably good at what they do most of the time.
Sure.
They don't have that knowledge. What sort of what place are they in, I suppose, from a business, a personal, and mental perspective, until before they start working with you?
It's interesting, Matt. What I've typically found, and you probably found that in your own sort of practice, is that if you're somebody who's coming afresh, so it's a starter type business there as well, you've got an element of, I think, transition to make from either a paid employment before, you may have left college or something else. And it takes about 1.5 years just to learn to become self-employed. So those businesses and business owners that have gone through that initial 1.5 to 2 years, they know what the stresses and the challenges are of running their own business. Businesses that come to me that might be more mature, it's typically 3 or 4 years into their cycle, they've grown, more people are buying from them, people understand who they are, what they are, buying from them. But typically their finances is less on the compliance stuff, but it's more about how they can move their businesses forward, how they can figure out how much money they're making, how they can figure out how to go into certain territories. And it seems to be a challenge with them that when it comes to the world of finance and accounting, and I know that's one of your backgrounds as well, is that a combination of jargon, a combination of not really talking about money, a combination of actually not understanding, and I think you have to be a mathematician to understand that, is basically puts them at a disadvantage there as well. So I think their attitude and that what they're wanting is really dependent on where they are in their business cycle and what connection they've had in terms of managing the finances in their business as well.
Yeah, it's really hard for business owners, I think, to understand actually what numbers are relevant to them. And it's complicated by so much that you've got the government wants something,
for sure,
the banks want something, the tax man wants something, you've got to do account. There's all sorts of things floating around. And it sounds like your objective is almost kind of simplify that a little bit for everybody, for business owners.
100%. I mean, listen, at the risk of me getting kicked out of the accounting profession, I think also our colleagues and my contemporaries and people in the profession, wonderful people, very hardworking, but they don't actually make it easy for clients because they will assume a level of knowledge. I've come across stories in my past when clients have come to us where advisors have actually sort of expressed exasperation at their client for not understanding something. They tend to use a lot of jargon. They tend to get quite, sometimes a bit patronising and quite aggressive in their tone because they're under pressure and they pass that pressure on, and they don't put clients in what I call a comfortable space, saying, look, this is what you're expert at, whether you're a marketer, whether you're a consultant, a manufacturer. But when it comes to finance things, you know, we're going to try and translate that so you can actually connect to it more. And, you know, a lot of so I think there's a whole combination of things, Matt. And I said I would put my hands up. And if you don't mind me mentioning, I wrote a book called I Hate Numbers. And when I was going into that book and writing it, one thing that really struck me strongly is that how many business owners I meet that actually do know about the topic area, but there's that wall of jargon and regulation and speak that actually that makes it very difficult to access.
Amazing. So I Hate Numbers. Just remind everybody how long you've been running that for now. How long this has been going for?
I've been running that. I had my 28th anniversary in February 1995. That day is etched on my memory, my brain. So that's 28 years here. I know you're probably thinking, you know, good skincare regime. You look very young. Yeah, but 28 years. And I said, probably started relatively late in life as a business owner. But, you know, I think it's all these things. Colonel Sanders, I think, was in his 60s when he started the KFC empire. So you're never too old to make a start.
No. And what are the top two biggest lessons you've learned since running the business from your perspective as a business owner?
I think there's two things. The two key things I would say, I would have thrown a financial thing, is wherever you are in your business cycle, if you don't keep an eye on the cash that comes in, then you can say, close the lights as you leave the building, you will not survive. You can survive without making profits, even though that's the aspiration. But if you don't monitor and keep an eye on the cash flow, you're going to have tricky times ahead, and probably survival is not going to be top of the list. The other thing I would say is don't be too hard on yourself. You know, all business owners, wherever they are in their cycle, will make mistakes, make bad judgments. They will take the wrong path. They will do the wrong thing. And it's a natural evolution. I think it's a natural part of business that we make mistakes. I always think about Edison and his 10,000 iterations to get to the light bulb here. And as long as you don't overblow that, I'm not saying you should seek to make mistakes, but learn from them, reflect on them, take some learning out of that and move on, because tomorrow is another day.
Awesome. And from a personal perspective with yourself, Mahmood, as a business owner, you must have, we all evolve as individuals all the time. What do you reflect on as being your personal lessons in the last 28 years?
Oh, blimey, how long have we got for this here? So I would say there's quite a number here. I would say a few, if I'm going to be honest, which I like to be. Yeah. I would say it's easier to give advice than it is to take your own advice. And that's something that I've learned. I think it's really important. I don't think it's like what I call a hippie type thing. You've really got to make sure you look after the most important asset in your business, and that's you as the business owner. So that means sometimes creativity is best sensed by not doing anything, taking some time away from the business. However much you love what you're doing, however much you love being in control, if you don't actually look after your own headspace, if you don't actually keep active, exercise, eat well, sleep well, and all the rest of it, you're going to get to that situation where you're going to get burnt out, you're going to hit that brick wall, you're going to crash. So I've certainly more so in the last few years taken that own advice and looked after myself a bit better, from, you know, whether it's health or exercising or yoga or whatever. And the other thing is you cannot grow just by yourself. You've got to invest in, whether it's freelancers or staff team. And even my hair is very grey, by the way, from employing staff over the last 2 or 3 decades here. But you cannot grow unless you trust and build up a good network and a good team of people that support you in what you do.
Awesome. It's an interesting time for business owners at the moment. A lot of our, the viewers of this will be in different stages of their business evolution. What are you seeing at the moment out there in the community and the businesses that you talk to, whether they be clients or just other businesses? Confidence levels in and around Leicestershire at the moment, what are you seeing?
What I'm seeing is happening is that certainly on the larger size businesses is that There is a greater attention to focusing on key staff here, making sure that you're looking after and retaining them. I think the wind has changed slightly post-pandemic now, where there was a big rush and scramble to recruit people now. I think that wind is changing slightly. So we've got a challenge here. I think retaining cash and cost control. What I would think is the old-fashioned disciplines that have stood the test of time over the last few centuries are ones that we should really are coming endemic. So controlling costs, making sure we give good service quality, making sure that we focus on key things. And what I'm finding more businesses, well, should be doing, brackets are doing, is planning. And for me, if you don't have a plan, I don't mean a document, that planning mindset, you find things very difficult. So yes, we are got challenges. Inflation will come down at some point. Costs will start to get better. I don't anticipate for about another 6 months to a year till that happens. You've got to make sure that the staff team that you have, you make sure they're doing what they should be doing. You've got to look after them. You've got to invest in them. And I think in other things, I mean, I work with different sectors. So if I look at something like the art sector where you got, or places that require an audience patterns are changing as well. So I think the pandemic lockdown changed people's buying patterns, changed people's buying habits there as well. So if your business moved dramatically online, that's a dangerous thing because there are still other channels to sell your services and goods. If you're somebody who relies on an audience coming into your premise, you're going to find it's going to take time for those audiences to come back in. They're not spending as much often. They're probably saving that money. There is still money to be spent, by the way, but I think you've just got to make sure that you're not dogmatic and looking through the rear view mirror of your business. Focus on looking through the windscreen.
Yeah, nice. I mean, that planning bit is really interesting. I think a lot of, you know, a high pressure situation like a lockdown or something, obviously from a self-preservation perspective as human beings, we insulate, becomes about survival, and we tend to go head down then. There's a lot of people we're talking to at the moment going, kind of lost track of what I want, where I'm going. And that obviously then feeds itself quite a lot. So when people don't plan, what are you seeing? What sort of pain points are these business owners having at the moment?
Well, disaster will face. I mean, Matt, you put it very well there. And for me, unless you have got a clear idea of what I call your destination point, and I would typically say as a bare minimum, I would say 12 months. If you fast forward 12 months time and say, right, I'm having that conversation with myself and my team, what does that 12-month look like? Can I articulate and describe it? And what do I need to get to that stage? If you're not planning, you're running a reactive business. You're running a hobby more so than anything else, and you're running something. All you're doing, you're firefighting. And what that's going to do, that's going to put stress on you. That's going to mean when you ask those questions, can I afford to do X? Can I afford to spend time developing my own business? Can I do this? Can I take on more staff? You cannot ask that question unless you've got a plan in front of you that says, this is the landscape over the next 12 months. I've got this phrase that I use on another business I run called Numbers Know How, called plan it, do it, profit. Plan that route map, translate that into a financial outcome of that route map, make it your accountability buddy, monitor it, review it, change it and progress. And if you can do that, I can't guarantee success, but I can guarantee you're not going to hit a brick wall as if you didn't have a plan.
You're giving yourself a hell of a better chance with that plan.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, excellent. What advice would you give? We've seen a lot of startups at the moment.
Yeah.
Just in our community and around Loughborough. I think, as you say, the pandemic shook up people's perception of the world, perception of how they wanted to live their lives, and the idea of running a business and having freedom and choice as a business owner is very appealing to people. Often the reality of actually running a business, people realise, you know, there's a bit of hard work involved with it.
100%, yeah.
What advice would you give to anyone thinking about starting a business, someone who's just started a business maybe? What advice would you give those people?
All right, I think, good question. I'll probably say it comes to about 2 or 3 things I would advise. Number one, don't speak to Dave down the pub to get your business support and advice. Dave down the pub is very friendly, you know, and you can actually get some good banter, but don't take business advice from people who haven't experienced it or don't have that background or whatever, whether it's in marketing, finance, accounts, law, whatever. So number 2, what I would probably say is, when you, and you're probably very familiar with this, Matt, in your coaching environment, is when you set goals, when you set your destination, make sure they're smart, make sure they're relevant for you, be realistic about them, make sure you can actually measure them as well. And I think the third thing is it's hard work. So you've got to set some degree of realism for yourself. Anybody that I know, any business that I look around me, whether it's a big multinational company or a very established brand within that locality, that overnight success was several years in the making. That overnight flash of hand and suddenly I'm here is more for the movies than it is in reality. So if you set that stall, be prepared to work hard, be prepared to do those, what you might think are tedious things of planning, monitoring, reviewing, changing, and having a good support network around you. I think those would be my sort of key bits of advice. And obviously keep an eye on the cash.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. Last question I ask people. You've obviously been in business 28 years. You had a very successful career before that. What advice would you give 18-year-old Mahmood now?
Oh, girl, interesting. Let me have a think. I'd probably say to 18-year-old Mahmood is to say, stick to your guns. Yeah. Don't always think when people say you can't do X. So for a number of reasons, Matt, maybe a conversation for another time. In my life, I've had a lot of people say you can't do this and that's not going to work. But if you've got a strong belief, and it's not like somebody who's never swum thinks they can swim the channel the next day. So with this degree of semblance, I will never win anything on X Factor because my voice is quite atrocious. However, if you've got confidence in your own ability and you've got something that you've tested and you believe in, stick to your guns. Okay, and proceed with that. So don't always listen to others, because ultimately it's your journey, it's your path, and part of that is actually enjoying it as you go along. Awesome, awesome. As you just said, Mahmood, this could be an hour-long episode. Maybe when I launch that, we'll definitely get you on that. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on this episode of the Business Spotlight, and to all our viewers, many thanks, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thanks again. Matt, nice one. Matt, thanks very much for asking me along. Take care. Absolute pleasure. Thank you.